In flutterflow, apps are made up of widgets. So in this video, I want to tell you about the two main things that are going to help you get your mind around widgets and their different types. So let's come over to our UI builder right over here so we can see them. And the two things are this. First, the types of widgets, and second, the number of children that a widget can have. So first, types of widgets. So we've split these up into 4 categories over here that you can see. Let me just twirl them closed so you can get a handle on these. Up here are just the most commonly used widgets, and those are found in these other categories here. So I'm just going to close these up. So we've divided widgets into 4 different types. These layout, base, page, and form widgets. And if we look in this first one right here, these layout widgets, these are your primitive layout widgets. These are the ones that you're going to build the main architecture of your app out of, because really most of your app are just stacking stuff on top of one another like columns and next to each other like rows. And so these are going to be the most common elements. And you can even see we've got some more complex types of layouts here for a grid view. That's if you want a 2D grid. And maybe you want that, but you more want a Pinterest style where they have different heights. We've got that here with a staggered view. Or maybe you want to swipe left and right and you've got page view or tabs so you can put stuff in different tabs that the user can click into. These are your layout widgets. And you're going to become very familiar with these. Next, we're going to skip our base elements. We're going to come back there and go down to our page elements right here. And these page elements are default widgets that sit outside of your main widget tree. So let me show you how this works. So let's just drag an app bar in and drag this floating action button in. And let's go back to our widget tree here. And let's just add something in for our main body right here. So like a column with a button in it. Okay, let's close this up. Now in flutterflow, the main body of your app, like the meat of your app, can have one child. Now, of course, that child can have multiple different children. So here I've got a column, which normally contains a bunch of things inside. But notice that these other things, these page elements, my app bar and my floating action button, look like they're siblings of this column. Because if I wanted to put something else in here, let's say I wanted to put an image, say above my column right here, and I try to put it in, I'm gonna get this warning. And that's because you can only have one child of the main body of your app. And I'm trying to add another one in. But that's because these page elements sit outside of that main body. So we can look at this in the code right here. And if we scroll down, we can see we've got our scaffold. That's that main homepage widget. And then we've got our floating action button and an app bar. And then we've got our body with our column in it. So most of the widgets that you're going to add into your page are going to be added into this body. Now you don't see it in here. We take care of that for you. But those page widgets are going to sit outside of this main body widget tree where you're going to be building everything. Okay. So let's go back to our types of widgets. Let's twirl these close again here. And we were just looking at these page widgets right over here. And next, let's look at these form element widgets. Now, these are going to be used for 2 main things: for forms, obviously, and for filtering. And you're familiar with this, whether it's Airbnb and you want to filter your list of places to stay by how many bedrooms they have, or if they have a pool, or on the Amazon app, maybe you're looking for just home goods. So you select the home goods and you'll use these form elements for filtering. And then lastly, we've got our base elements, which are every other widget. So if you're looking for a particular kind of widget that's not a sort of main primitive widget or a form widget, it's gonna be in here. And we're constantly adding new widgets in here. Okay, so that's the first thing to know about widgets, understanding these different categories and where to find them. Now, of course, you can search in here if you know what you're looking for, but those are the main divisions. The second category to know is how many children does the widget accept? And there are 3 options. A widget can accept 0 children, 1 child, or many children. So let's look at these. Let's just delete this button right here. And if we drag in a text widget right here and go back over to our widget tree, you can see that it doesn't have this add a widget icon right here. And if you don't see that icon, you can't add any children, so it doesn't accept any children. Next, you've got widgets that accept only 1 child. And an example of this would be a container. So let's add our container in here. And if we add a child in here, you can see that. And if we try to add another one, we are going to get this pop up. And this is helpful because anytime you try to add a widget to a widget that only accepts one child, you're going to get this pop up. And so instead of just like erroring out, flutterflow gives you this window so that you can solve this problem. And so I try to add another text widget inside this container. And so what I'm trying to do is have a container with 2 text widgets. And of course, a container can't take 2 widgets, it can only take 1. So flutterflow is saying, hey, if you want to have 2 widgets inside of here, you have to wrap it in a widget that takes multiple children. That is our last category, widgets that can take many children. And we're given 3 options to wrap it in a column, a row, or a stack. And of course, which you pick will depend on your design. What are you trying to do? But let's just wrap it in a column right here. And so you can see what happened. So now our problem is resolved because our container has 1 child, a column, but it beautifully resolves the design issue we wanted to have. That is 2 text widgets inside our container, which brings us to this last category of widgets that can have many children. And this is normally obvious by the icon or the name. So we've got a row and a column that you can see has multiple children, a stack, a grid view, a staggered view, etc. But sometimes it's not exactly clear. So for instance, a page view can take many children as well. So you can play around with this and test out which widgets accept many children. And that's the 2 main categories to have in mind as we're jumping into widgets.